Vernon.
Here.
Commissioner Blue. President Dorhoeffer.
Here, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. The first item on the agenda this evening is the omnibus vote agenda. Items under the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion. If a separate vote on any one item is desired, it will be pulled from the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Items in the omnibus for this evening are the minutes of the regular board meeting dated August 23rd, 2018, payables Les Granger, and payroll through September 20th, 2018, in the amount of $713,361.62. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Maline.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins.
Yes.
Commissioner Blue.
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler.
Yes.
President Dorhoeffer.
Yes, next item on the agenda is the financial reports for the period ending August 31st. Marla, any changes or additions?
No,
They're on
that's good.
file?
Everything's
Perfect.
on file.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the visitors and guests public comment period. And we'd like to invite a very special guest, Magdalena Zuchek. Jeff, if you could explain to us a little about Magdalena and
Thank you, Cheryl. Can everybody hear me okay? I don't even know if the mic is even on, but, so Magdalena is a sophomore at Vernon Hills High School, and she trains in our karate club here, and recently she received a gold medal. You gotta show us your.
I was gonna say, you need the hardware.
Wear that around.
I was gonna say, Magdalena, wear that at school. Okay.
Yeah. This is a huge honor for a young lady to train in the Pan American Games. It's an international karate championships, and she received her gold medal in Kumite. So that's fighting, sparring, for those of you that may not be familiar with that. And so she was a gold medal. Her father told me last year too, and obviously we missed that. But she trains not only in Vernon Hills, she trains up in Gurnee, and then also in the Illinois Shotokan Karate Club, which runs the program here, and they also run programs in about 70 park districts throughout the Chicagoland area. And she trains a lot in their dojo there with Sensei Di Pasquale, right? And Sensei Murtal, who are two, world champions. So I was asking her while we were sitting, because karate now is going to be introduced to the Olympics in 2020 for the first time. She's not old enough to compete in it at that time, but 2024, so watch out for Magdalena Zuchek. We would just like to certainly recognize her on behalf of the board and the staff, and she's a great student at the high school, I'm told, an honor student as well. So congratulations. You've got a fine young lady here, Peter, and on behalf of the board and staff and those who are in the audience, please, a round of applause. We got a little gift for you.
Yeah, really.
It's a little picnic blanket. Doing your workouts, stretching, laying it all out. So I don't know if you want to say anything, or you're, no?
Oh, yeah, she wants to talk, yes.
I would just like to thank for this opportunity. It was very nice that you brought me here, and I'm happy to represent our state and our country around the world. So thank you.
You can see her on the screen here for those of you where she's receiving her gold medal, and that was in Rio de Janeiro recently, where they hosted that tournament.
All right, so what's your toughest class at the high school?
My toughest class, either my AP Euro class or my Algebra 2 honors.
Okay. Given the choice between competing like that or going to class, which one's tougher?
The competition.
Is it? What, for those of us that have never achieved international status, what's it like?
It's very overwhelming because it's a very long process to even get onto the team, but let alone get to a tournament like this. And it's just a lot of stress. especially just right before. So you're there kind of for a week before, and I'm like just nervous the entire time. And then you get onto there waking up early in the morning, and then you're like, well, there's 16 other girls in this division, and only 4 make it to the top. So you're kind of like, odds are not completely in your favor, but I just kind of hope for the best.
And then the toughest question of all, when you're competing, who's more a wreck, mom or dad?
Ooh, my mom. For sure.
Why is that?
She always just like talks too much, and then she's like, "Wait, don't talk to me." And then she always blames, like, if I ever lose or get too nervous, then she blames it on herself, and then it makes me feel bad. So like, so my dad's kind of calm about it. He doesn't talk much when it comes to that.
Well, congratulations on behalf of all of us. Congratulations on behalf of the community. You're an amazing role model, and congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
So you're welcome to stay, but it's gonna be a long night, so you've got, I know you gotta go to class too, right? Okay, so, whenever you wanna leave.
Tough act to follow. The next item on the agenda is a group from Hawthorne District School 73. Sonali, Abe,
Joe?
Joe, yours as well? Perfect.
Should we speak from the podium?
If you can go up to the podium. We've got a kind of a tight schedule, so is 15 minutes good for you guys?
Sure,
That work for you?
we can do that.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
I know.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having the elementary school district here to discuss a little bit of background on how school finances work, quick background, and then some framework as it relates to the 2 referendum questions for this November. Next slide. Click. Most of our funding comes from the local level. It's 87%. It's typical for Collier County districts to be heavily reliant on local property taxes. That's pretty much the system within which we operate throughout the suburbs here. Local property tax increases are typically based off of 2 things. One is the price of gas, consumer price index, predicates our increase in the 87% of our revenue. It has nothing to do with the number of students. The state model does factor enrollment, and unfortunately that only represents a very small percentage of our revenue, that being 9.5. Now, the consumer price index, it's been historic lows. You know that all the taxing districts, they get revenue as a function of the consumer price index as well as the incremental new additional construction that takes place within our taxing district. Next slide. So this was a model of our cash reserves over time. This was under the model of expending for Sullivan for the original budget of $12 million. And we have some new leadership. I've been here a year. Dr. Porto has been here 2 months, I believe. And so it was the board's decision to not, if you look at May 2020, you can see that in that month, it's a low point.
No, go ahead.
Okay, do you have access to a pointer? Would that help? Yes, sir. Oh, that's a pointer. Oh, and there's a mouse. Oh, okay, like getting old. So under the old model, May is our low point. It's right before the June payment. We keep an eye on May because that's the low point throughout our year. We don't want to dip below 0. Otherwise, we need tax anticipated warrants in perpetuity. And that's where we were headed. That is where we were headed if we expended Sullivan, and you can see that. We wanted to maintain our reserves until we can rectify some of the deficit spending we've got built in within our operations for the past few years. We've had operating deficits. We want to minimize the need to short-term borrow in the month of May. Also, we need contingencies. We know what's happening with tariffs and the cost of steel, cost of construction is going up. If we have a 5-year phase-in plan of the EFMP, we would like to have some fund balance to absorb any contingencies, some contingencies, if there's overages based upon what we ask for in November versus 5 years from now what the actual cost may be. Do you have a question, sir?
EFMP.
That is the Educational Facilities Master Plan. I will get into that in the next slide. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. So other reasons, we also needed to factor in, we're going to build 150 some odd thousand square feet in these additions. We're operating in deficit right now. There will be associated operational costs with this new building. We'll need a custodian, elevator inspections, bus routes. So all of that needed to come from somewhere, and that wasn't factored in. And there's things that are on the horizon. Pension cost shift with TRS, property tax freeze is still possible and talked about. And there's always the delay in proration of our state funding. That's always ongoing. Not to mention, if you expend all of your cash reserves, it affects your credit rating. If you're trying to issue bonds, you're going to pay higher interest. Taxpayers would pay higher interest as well. If you could go on to the next slide, or I will. Our mission and vision. Sonali, would you like to go over that at all? Sure.
So the mission of our school has been to inspire all students to embrace learning in an ever-changing world. And the vision we have is that we can educate the whole child and give equitable opportunities to all and respect everybody's diversity and foster collaboration. So we have 4,220 students, and this is an increase by 487 students over the past 10 years. For some of you, 487 is more than full school of Aspen or Townline or dual language. Their capacity is 450. So in the past 10 years, we have grown more than one school capacity. We have 8 schools and 2 campuses, 4 elementary, 2 middle, the School of Dual Language, which was one of the earliest in Lake County, and the Early Learning Center, which is in intergovernmental partnership with Mundelein and Fremont, and that school is in Lincoln Elementary, which is in Mundelein. Our students score in the 88th percentile in the 2017 PARCC testing, and 83% of our students meet or exceed their personal growth targets. We also are the primary feeder district for Vernon Hills High School, which ranks as the second in Lake County amongst high school and about 14th in Illinois by US News. So we prepare our students well for future. Sure.
So our tax rate comparison, we looked at all elementary districts within Lake County because we do have a second question on the referendum, which is an increase to the limiting rate. That is there to account for the operational costs associated with our educational facilities master plan. The question is for a 0.1% increase. You can see where we are compared to all other elementary school districts within Lake County. We're at 3.24, the average is 3.59. So hypothetically in 2017, the 3.24, if this were to pass, would be a 3.34, which would not move us at all. It's that small of an increase with that second question relative to the tax rates that are present throughout Lake County. Our revenue per student can also be seen, again, all Lake County elementary districts. We are 21% below the average as it relates to the amount of revenue per pupil that's allocated throughout our county, and that becomes a challenge. Now, when we talk about housing, we refer to the Illinois School Board of Education Fall Housing Report. That's where we derive our data from. And you can see the overall increase for the past 10 years. It's been averaging 1.3% a year, 487 more students. A school full of kids are now present in our district, but the school didn't come with them, nor did the teachers. This school district had to absorb that. And based on our CASARDA report, which is conservative, if you look at the Series B, it projects a 0.9% average, which is less than what we've historically seen. But based upon that, through 2026, we would see another 314 students. This is an interesting analytic, and I think this really illustrates the generational turnover that we have within this community. Meaning, once my kids are done with school, I'm going to move. And we've got a lot of that. So you can see in red the enrollment, how it's grown, and the expense per pupil, computing that. The red defining the expense from new students from '09 through 2017. The blue being the new construction component that has come along with it. And so, there's been a gap, and we're up to a gap of 4.3 million in 2017 due to the new growth and new enrollment. Stable districts, meaning districts that aren't growing, are able to sustain themselves based upon CPI. But those districts that grow at the rate we do, it becomes a real hardship, and this really illustrates that. So what are the needs? Enrollment has increased by 487. Schools are operating above at and above capacity. 30 plus students in our middle schools because physically we don't have enough classrooms. 35 plus students in some advanced middle school classes. We're using classrooms without labs. They're less than ideal. We've got gym class in the lunchroom. We've got the lunchroom in the gym class. We're doing things on the stage that are atypical of a community such as this or any school district. We're doing things that are far less than ideal. We have rental mobile units that are currently in use. We've refrained from installing more. They're expensive. One installed, you're talking about footings, foundation, electric, easily 150 grand installed, and we don't want to go down that route. We have a collage of pictures, and there's a number of videos here as well that shows some of the things that are ongoing within the school operationally. We're in closets and we're crowded within
This is an
band
old
rooms.
kitchen that we repurposed to get our kids into music classes. So this is Elementary South, where an old kitchen has been repurposed for that.
And I think this is a nice quick video, just a clip. We'll move on from here.
This is a video where in Middle North, we don't have enough gym space, so we take the space out of a cafeteria. So we divide the cafeteria, which is not big to begin with, and you have kids doing PE on one side and the other kids are eating lunch on the other side. And you can see as middle school students, they are packed in there and they have no place to move, so that's not very ideal for them to have lunch in.
No. But they get to sit close to one another and bond, so that's good. Now, the EFMP process was developed to address overcrowding and fulfill the district vision of providing world-class education. It reflects input from stakeholders. We've had a number of community engagement meetings to develop that plan. It is fiscally responsible, and it was the least costliest option out of multiple alternatives.
And all the alternatives that were brought forward by the community were vetted by the architects and by our construction manager to actually put dollar amounts to them. Yep. So we did.
So the plan adds
every single one of them before we came to this one that we wanted to do.
The plan adds classrooms and modifies spaces in each of our buildings. It alleviates the overcrowding, provides opportunity for staff collaboration, and it's a partnership that we want to move forward with the Park District as well as the library. And STEM centers are also designed within the middle school. Many of you may have seen the plan, but we're talking about additions, classrooms at all of the schools. First and foremost, we would proceed with the kindergarten facility here at Sullivan. It would immediately relieve our space issues and needs in all of the elementary schools. That would happen immediately. The next phase would address the middle schools as well, which would be the next opportunity and limitation as well. But all of this is available on our website if you have greater interest in the specifics related to the plan. This is the phasing. It's conceptual, and we can reprioritize over time, but it would be of the utmost importance for us to build Sullivan Center first, and then Middle North, followed by Elementary South, which has quite a bit of crowding right now. Middle South would follow along with Aspen. Logistically, they're next to each other. And then finally, Elementary North, Townline, and Dual for the final phase of to finish out that fifth phase. How will it be funded? We want the one question to issue $48.7 million in bonds. It's going to allow the district to construct the classrooms necessary and to modify the spaces necessary. And it also includes refinancing some of the existing debt to reduce the payments so it evens out. There's a nice bar graphic that can illustrate that. And there's a second question, which I've briefly touched on, which is the increase to the limiting tax rate by 0.1%. Now, here's some analytics. The 2019 tax impact of the first question would result in $18 less for a $350,000 market value home. Once we do the refinancing, the net is actually $18 less for 2019. And then the average would be $528 because it's extended out further to 2042, but it's an $179 decrease from the current average of our bond payments. This is the graph for that first question. The gray is the existing condition. If we stay with the current debt and allow that to play out through 2025, you can see what those levels are at. And our goal is to level that out, to refund the existing debt, and the new debt would continue for a longer period of time to allow for that $48.7 million in building bond money. The limiting rate impact for a typical home, $350,000 home, would be $111 in 2019, and the future impact would be limited to CPI or 5%. And it's a board action item every year. As you do, we do the tax levy. So both combined, 2019, if for a $350,000 home, it would be a $93 impact for the year for that home, assuming both.
We have a website which is linked to our school, and there's a tax calculator, so anybody who would want to go in and plug in their home value, you can see exactly what your tax impact will be with both the questions if they pass.
You're able to see it by year on this tax calculator, going out the full length of the bond issuance. You're also able to see your current payments with the existing bonds. The first question as well as the second question, it's all calculated out there for you. And we have contingencies. Okay, did I exceed my time? Is that what? Okay. So what if it doesn't pass? These are difficult questions, hard decisions for us to make for the kids, for the future of this community. But class sizes may continue to increase as they have. If it doesn't pass, academic activities would continue to be compromised. Fine arts, extracurricular would be on the table. And we probably would see additional trailers and learning spaces. The state defined ideal square foot per pupil. We're well underneath the ideal throughout the district, and that would continue. So with that, any questions?
Any questions from the board? What are the most common misconceptions you've heard that you'd like to get out and say, we've heard this, that's not accurate, here's the reality? Because the community's talking about it, and it's not all accurate in what they're saying. So what are you hearing that's not accurate that you can set the record straight on?
Well, I know there have been confusions as it relates to enrollment, and the enrollment that we referred to tonight. Battery's running out. Battery issue. So next time. One of the confusions has been related to enrollment, and so what we've done, we referred to the state. Fall housing report, and clearly year over year we have growth, and growth that isn't slowing down anytime soon. As a matter of fact, not related to Vernon Hills, but in Wonderland we have a potential construction on homes that would directly impact our school district.
One on Butterfield?
No, it's on Allenson, actually.
Oh, Allenson, that's right, Allenson, right.
So that is the other one, as well as there are plans for the redevelopment of the mall. So we are still waiting to hear what that would be, and we've heard it might be a work, live, play place kind of a concept. So if it's live, then there might be kids from there. So we are kind of watching out for that. So all those things start affecting our enrollment numbers as well as all our transportation costs. So that is.
Go ahead, please.
Being the new guy on the block, I've heard some of the misconceptions as I've come in. I think one of the biggest problems that we've had to face is that some people think that we're doing this for the future, that the future enrollment will get to a certain point, and what if that doesn't happen? The misconception is we are at a space crunch right now. Even if one more student doesn't come and our enrollment stays flat, we are in a situation that's untenable from an educational point of view, in our opinion, and we also don't think that that's sustainable. So that's the biggest one I've heard. Well, you're just basing that on a possible future projection. The reality is the space crunch is here, right now.
Can you take us through the two questions on the referendum? Because my understanding is it's an all or nothing. If one passes and the other one doesn't, then it's a no-go either way. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair possibility, and it is our goal to pass both because they're interrelated, they are connected. One is to build the buildings and facilities, and the other is to offset the operational costs associated with that build-out.
So the stupid question is, well, why wouldn't you put them both together rather than ask two separate questions? If they're related to each other, put them together and don't confuse the public
Right.
by trying to go in two separate directions. Can you explain that for me?
So legally, that would have been ideal. We would have wanted to do that, but legally, we're not able to. The mechanics aren't there legally to allow for that, to do both together.
The bonds that for 48.7, and if we had made that 50 or 52 or 55, whatever, that is only for building out. It's a brick and mortar build out or a reconstruction or a remodeling. It doesn't allow for the operational cost of it, which would be your busing and electricity and custodians. It will not allow for that. So that's why the limiting tax increase, that goes towards the operational fund. They're very particular about where they want the funds to go.
By law. By law, we had to separate.
And the 48 million, you're not going to draw it all at once. You've got a staged approach. Your payment schedules for taxes reflect that, or is that a reflection of?
Correct. That was our goal, which was to reduce the costs of taxes to taxpayers and not to have an incremental additional cost year over year. We wanted to flatten out, albeit further out, because it's a $47.8 million question.
And you've got 5 years to take that money in some way, shape, or form and put it toward brick and mortar.
Correct.
The plan can change a little bit, maybe, depending on actual fluctuation.
Yeah, we might change, like if elementary south or middle south suddenly has more growth or has more students, and we decide that its needs are more than elementary south, we can switch the buildings through or build more classrooms and less music room space if need be, but they would all go towards building towards those buildings.
Any other questions?
Have you factored in, if this is a 5-year development, have you factored in the additional cost it's gonna be 5 years from now for building a building with all what's going on with the world's economies?
Correct. That's been factored in up
As much
to.
as we can predict.
Right. We've got experience with a recent bid at Sullivan, and we've used that as a framework for factoring the increase in costs that probably will be experienced with a rebid, along with the additional 4 phases beyond that first. Inflationary costs have been factored in year over year throughout to the 5th year.
I'm just a little concerned, year 5, you get to the point where, hey, you know what, you don't have enough money to build this thing, this 5th year of the project.
Absolutely, and the inflation could get so bad throughout this country that is within the realm of possibilities. And certainly we didn't want to overstretch the question and make it unreasonable as it relates to what taxpayers would be committed to. We've come up with a number that we think is conservative and typical of what we're seeing right now, and then extrapolating further out for the next 4 years. And then knowing that we're not going to expend our fund balance, that there would be some play within our cash reserves to absorb an overage of a few $100,000 And that would allow us to do that. That would afford us the opportunity to do that.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Thanks for giving
Thank
us
you.
the
Appreciate your
time to
time.
come by.
We have community engagements, we have dates on our website, so if anybody has many more questions or wants to go over the presentation in more depth, which we'll probably do, so please come and to our community engagement dates.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Visit our
Thank you.
website, there's more
Appreciate it.
information there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ty. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Conduct ordinance review. Jeff, can you provide us an update, please?
Yeah, sure. So the last board meeting, we had the information presented on the e-bikes in terms of a potential prohibiting them for use in our parks. And so you've got a memorandum before you that I would ask you to just keep that within the board. That's from the police chief, and just kind of their initial findings on state law regarding e-bikes. We're still waiting on some additional information from the county and how they are enforcing. But what James and I, at least at this point, what we've found is, the law allows you to use them on an open road. They allow you to use them in parks and trails. They don't allow you to use them on sidewalks. That's not our issue that we're presenting here to the board. So once we get further information from the county, we'll get that all pieced together, and then we just plan to have a recommendation at the October meeting for the board.
Very good. Thank you. In the deference of time and to our guests that are presenting here tonight, we're going to go ahead and go to new business and skip over reports for a little while. If I could invite to the annual affiliate review, if we could have a representative from the Vernon Hills Soccer Club. Come on up and state your name and
Hello, Peter Kempf. I am the Director of Travel for the Vernon Hills Soccer Club. This is my first time doing this, so I'm going to go quick. If you want more information, please ask. So, as you know, we have a rec program and a travel program. Our rec numbers are slightly down this year. This fall, we're at 317 kids playing. That's down from 375 last fall. However, on the travel side, last year we were at 13 teams, 165 players. This year we're at 16 teams, total of 206 players. So the travel is growing. We did do some strategic moves with the travel program. We're working with the Lake Forest Soccer Association at the older ages. Based on kids leaving, giving up soccer. Also, when soccer teams get larger as you get older, we needed to create a partnership with them that's growing the travel side. Financially, we've been keeping within the budget. I know we were asked for financials. Our fiscal year ends the end of May. And then we can get those financials to you same time as last year, probably end of this year. We'll get those out to you guys. But we've been within budget. We have a nice surplus of funds that we can use. Recently, we had our 4th annual Chicago Cup tournament. We partnered with another group that does this as a living, have full-time employees doing it. So last year, which was our best year as individual soccer club, we had about 100 teams. This year, we moved it over 2 weekends. The first weekend, which we called our Fall Classic, had 85 teams, just under 1,300 athletes. And then our Labor Day tournament, we had 222 teams and over 3,500 athletes. We had teams as far as Arizona coming in as well. So there's a lot of growth potential there. Unfortunately, the Labor Day weather, Saturday overnight with the 3 inches of rain, we did have to cancel the Sunday, Monday of the tournament, which wasn't great. We continue our relationship with the Vernon Hills High School. That's one of the reasons for our partnership that I mentioned with the Lake Forest Soccer Association. We were just losing too many kids at the older ages. And these kids that want to play high school, if they want to remain at a top level, they cannot take an entire year off and just play high school season. So we formed this partnership, and it's been working out great. Our community, our club members, they love the idea, because we can also have teams, hired teams with elite players, and then a second team as well. Strategically, we, as I mentioned, partnered with a tournament management group for the tournament. We look forward to hosting that each and every year. We're also working toward a player pathway with one of the U.S. Soccer Development Academies. We've been working toward that. We feel very close of having that partnership. That will give kids within our community a reason to stay within Vernon Hills to play soccer. If they are the elite, or they are the ones looking to play college and beyond, they won't have to go to another community to find a different club. So that's why we're working on that initiative. One thing we are working on as well is looking for turf at the VHAC. We have started conversations with some groups on some quotes, and with the Development Academy, we're going to be discussing the possibility of putting in some turf over at VHAC. I think last year we talked about a need for an indoor facility. While that need is still there, we've put that to the side, just based on space and cost. We did find a place out in Lake Bluff called Turf Time, where our older kids go to. It's a small, I'll call it dumpy, little warehouse with turf and goals. It works well, of course a little bit far away. And then we are still utilizing the schools and a place in Corporate Woods for our younger kids to play, even though that's on wood floors or the old AstroTurf, you know, the carpet on concrete. So it's not ideal, but it's doing the job for us now. And I think that covers it, unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
You have the legal settlement fee of $21,750 is one of your expenses.
That was one of our expenses, yes.
What was that?
So that was a former coach that we had a contract with, that we had to get rid of and break his contract. He turned around and sued us, and that was a, what's the word I'm looking for? It never went to legal. It was
Settlement.
Settlement, thank you.
It was a buyout of his contract.
So we made an agreement to pay that amount and not go down the legal route.
Hopefully it's a one-time expense.
I hope it's just a
'Cause it
one time.
caused, you know, obviously caused your cash flow to go down a little bit this year, and
Correct.
hopefully that won't happen again.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Next item is the Vernon Hills Lady Cougars basketball. Another first timer.
Another first timer. Rocco says he's sorry he's not here.
Sure.
He's in Arizona.
I know where he's at.
He says thank you for all the support over the last couple of years. It's right here. Thank you.
Talked to him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Who's going? Actually, we're blaming the club's loss on him because he was at the Cup game
Right,
yesterday.
yeah, blame it on him. You can totally call him on that one. My name is Stacy Brutner, and I am the new president of the Vernon Hills Ladies Cougars. Rocco has stepped away finally. We got rid of him. And we got a new board, as you can see on the handout that I gave you. Our season goes from October through March. We are part of the NIGFBA organization, which is the Northern Illinois Girls Feeder Basketball Association. We just call it NIGFBA. It's a mouthful. We have about 4 teams, usually sometimes 5, but this past season we had 4, 5th through 8th grade, so we had about 43 participants. Fees for them were about $475 and $515. The fees are different because usually 6th through 8th grade plays more games than 5th grade does. About 40 games per team, 30 practices. We have all of our games and practices at Vernon Hills High School, or we use the surrounding Hawthorne gyms. And we participate in about 5 tournaments a year. We have fundraisers where we have parents go to restaurants and we get a percentage of that back. We also have coaches training that they go through, background checks, coaches clinic with the high school with Paul Bretner, my husband, and a sexual abuse awareness policy and CPR training for all of our coaches. And we also have joint activities with the high school. We have pasta parties. We have, like I said, the coaches clinic. We go to Northwestern. We just have a lot of fun. And we also use the Park District for a lot of things. We come to photo day. We use it for our end of the year banquet, parent meetings, board meetings, and the Hawthorne gyms, like I said. And then on the other page, I gave you kind of a preview of the next season coming up. And standing next to me is Melissa Loik. She is the new VP of our finances, and she's amazing. So if you have any questions about our finances, she will be happy to answer them, as Rocco trained her.
Well, in short summary, you have the financial snapshot in front of you there. As you can see, we have a pretty good beginning cash balance. This year, when we look at our income coming in, heavily dependent on player fees, 84% of our income comes from player fees. On the expense side, our expenses are a little higher this year. We're investing in new uniforms for the players.
Yep.
We anticipate that being about a $4,800 expense. One of the things I can tell you is I look at our budget for the year. We do have a lot of scalability in terms of our expenses as well. So as we look at the players in terms of enrollment, we would then adjust accordingly for some of the things like activities, tournaments, and then also general administrative and other items to ensure we remain in line and finish the year with about a $20,000 surplus.
Any questions?
Couple questions.
Yeah.
Why charge for tryouts?
$25 tryout fee has always been in place. Rocco started that, and we get tryout T-shirts that we hand out to the girls every year, and then it gives us extra cash for supplies needed for the gym bags, for coaches, and things like that.
Uniforms. Organization buys the uniforms?
We do.
Really?
Yeah, it's about $100 per kid. So our fees are going up by $100 this year per person.
Sorry?
So the kids are buying
uniforms.
Kids are
right?
buying,
They're
yes.
just keeping
I mean,
them.
but they're reusable they'll be reusable for like 7 years. So, and they're really nice reversibles. They'll be looking good. Hopefully they'll play good in them too.
Details. Any other questions? Thank you both very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
Thank you for all you do, by the way.
Thank you. Next item is community baseball and softball.
So I'm Bill Paulison, the president of the VHCBS. Just to be back on the program again, we run travel baseball, community baseball, and community softball. We have approximately 550 kids in our program, 150 in travel, about 300 or so in baseball, another 100-ish, maybe a little higher for softball. Our season lasts on the community side, starts practices in April, runs through the end of June, beginning of July, depending on the levels. For travel, we typically start indoors in January and run through the end of July. We recently conducted our 2019 travel tryouts. Our numbers are actually down a little bit team-wise. We're actually seeing some decline at the younger levels. Part of it is we think there's other sports that kids are getting into. Part of it's a marketing kind of thing. We're trying to figure out what some of those solutions are. Some of it just parents aren't looking to actually have that level of elite or travel experience until they get a little bit older. From a financial perspective, we're doing quite well. Last year, I think, revenue minus expenses was about $11,000 net surplus to our bottom line. Last thing I'll say is that recently we've had 2 board members decide to step down, and we held elections. Brian Mahler, who had been the vice president of travel baseball, has stepped down, and Dennis Drexler has replaced him, who was actually a board member already filling our secretary spot. So he was replaced by Craig Einhorn, who joined our board, and Bob Pieper stepped down. He was the Vernon Hills community parent rep, and John Kepke has filled that spot as well. And we've also filled another board non-voting board member position by Jason Glassman. He's going to help us with some marketing and some communications on our website, social media, and things of that nature. So any questions? Happy to answer.
Any questions?
I have a couple questions. Do you have to file 1099 forms for your outside consultants or umpires or?
We don't, nope. We don't do that for umpires, and so, yeah, we just don't do that.
Okay. Do you pay any individuals more than $600 a year?
Some we do.
Are you concerned you're not filing the 1099s that you should be?
Not at this point, no. We'll consult with our tax attorney and see whether or not we need to.
Yeah, please consult, because that could be a big issue. Another question is on the tax return, one of the questions lists the states in which a copy of this Form 990 is required to be filed, and you say none. What about the state of Illinois?
And that might have been an error.
Okay, we got to change that. That's important.
So I'll approach my tax guy on that.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate what you do, Bob. Vernon Hills Stingers.
Thank you for having us. I'm the president, Scott Commodore. Rick Weingard is in charge of our finances, so I'll let Rick do the talking. Go ahead.
You want to turn the page? Oh, how do I do this? Okay, just finished our 2018 season. We had 7 teams at all age groups, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 84 participants. Our 14U team participated in the ASA Nationals. And going into 2019, we are going to increase our fees for the first time in about 3 years, but we're going to offset that by reducing our fundraisers slightly. So it's a wash. Right now, our fundraiser, our biggest fundraiser is our tournament that we have in July, and we've seen a shrinkage there. 2015, we had 81 teams participate, went down to 74 teams in 16, down to 63 teams in 17, down to 54 teams this past year. So we are contemplating changing our tournament date, moving it into June. We'll be meeting next week with our board, and I'll be doing a presentation to the board on that topic. But that's something that we're looking at right now. What's happening there is we're seeing that a lot of programs, 10 years ago, programs would go into late July and finish their season. A lot of them finished it with our tournament the third week of July. We're now seeing teams finish their season first, second week of July. And when they get to our tournament, the pool of teams available has shrunk. I've been researching other programs and other tournaments and that do theirs in June and early July, and they don't have this shrinkage that we have. So that's why we think it's time to look at maybe moving our tournament up a little bit. We've just completed our selection of teams for 2019, and we did have a shrink. We've gone from 7 teams to 6. We have 2 teams at 16U, but for this year we do have no teams at the 18U level, which is unfortunate. Once kids get through how do you do this? High school. Through high school, they don't, or get to their senior year, they don't want to play travel anymore. We do have a scholarship fund for families that do need it, something that we've offered the last couple of years. We are always looking to improve our infrastructure, bring in some more outside training, batting instructors, catching instructors, pitching instructors. We're trying to get more paid coaches, get away from the parent coaches. And that seems to help quite a bit. This year we will have 4 to 6 paid coaches in 2019 versus 2 to 4 last year. So I think we had 3 last year. And this coming year we'll have 3 head coaches who will be paid. And we do 1099s for our coaches. And we reach out to former players, former Stinger players, former college players to try to get their help when they're available for maybe June and July during the summer. We just renewed our lease at the Corporate Woods facility. We'll be there for another 4 to 5 years. And it's a fairly good indoor facility that all of our teams use during the winter. Just very quickly, our revenue sources, the biggest one there, 65% is funds, registration fees, 35% are fundraisers. So we do rely on fundraisers, and the biggest one is our tournament, which is we get about $12,000 to $15,000 a year just from our tournament. This shows our tournaments, and again, our biggest one there is our tournament. We do pie fundraisers, pizza fundraisers, car washes at the Shell, Ernie's on Milwaukee Avenue. And we have a pitching clinic in the winter with the Park District. So financially, we're finishing. I think I gave you financials through August, and we're flat. Revenue meets expenses. Next year I gave you the budget, and next year we do show a deficit that we'll definitely address. That's probably the first time we've had a deficit in quite a long time. So that's it. Any questions at all?
Any questions for the Stingers? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for your. Thank you. Just want to say, for our tournament, we want to thank the Park District for everything they give us. I think John, is it right? That's just did a fantastic job. We had a lot of weather issues this year, and they were there from start to finish. So, thanks very much.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. And certainly, last but not least, the Vernon Hills Sports Club. And another new face.
Couple new faces.
Someone's coming up again.
Yeah.
And she's happy to be coming again. You can tell.
So we're part of the Vernon Hills Cougar Sports Club, and myself and Vince Tran are co-president this year. And there's been a lot of changes. We were trying to bring all our new faces here so that you guys can meet us, but there were a couple people that could not make it. But like I said, many changes. Myself and Vince took over for Jeff Wilgus as he stepped down. George also stepped down as football commissioner. I took over as football commissioner early this year. Midsummer, we voted in Stacy as the basketball commissioner for the boys. So our Vernon Hills 2018 and 19 board is Vince Tran and myself as co-president, Mike Lee as secretary, Mike Reyes trustee, Vince Tran is commissioner of lacrosse, Peter Lamberti football commissioner, and Stacy Bretner as basketball commissioner. We are also looking for community large members, so if anybody out there wants to be a part of our group, we're always looking for help. I'm going to go into a little bit of the football because I'm in charge of football and give you guys some insight. We started in a new league this year, Central Suburban Youth Football League. It's a new league that was combined with Park Ridge and Central Suburban Football. This league is for flag and tackle. There's 9 teams that we play up against. This year we did some new changes to football. We had a community night that was held here at the Sullivan Center on June 13th. We had parents as speakers, and also Coach Bellicomo came with a couple varsity players to give some insight on football. We also, did a partnership with Bill. Also, he did a fun night for our kids for flag and football. Was hosted at the high school. He did a 2.5-hour clinic, had drills, and he gave the kids football, Cougar football. So it was getting the kids ready for the season. So let me talk a little bit about our flag program this year. Our flag program, we have an increase in flag. Last year, we did not have a 4th, 5th, or 6th grade flag. So this year, we added them back in. So in total, we have about 55 kids in the flag program. We have 1st, 2nd grade, we have 2 teams. 3rd, 4th, we have 1 team. And our 5th, 6th grade flag, we have 2 teams. So that's 7-on-7. As for our tackle, we have 1 tackle program this year. We have a 7th, 8th grade with 17 kids. And so far, we're 2-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll let Vince talk a little bit about lacrosse.
All right. Hey, guys. I've been running lacrosse, upper lacrosse program for the last 6 years. Actually succeeded Jeff Wilgus. So our lacrosse season runs spring, and fall. We don't have winter and we don't have summer. We may do summer tournaments like the ones you guys do. We do here, Lacrosse America, Pipe City, those things. But we don't. Those are really for travel, the more skilled kids. We had my goal for the start of the season was to have 4 teams. They changed the age levels this year to U10, U12, 14, and U8. I couldn't get a U8 and U10. We did have a U12 and 14. We play in a league run by True Lacrosse up in Lake Forest. We also do the same thing in the fall. The fall numbers are a little bit usually lower than the spring because we have kids that do sports, football, and conflicts and things like that. So, but we do have 2 teams for the fall as well, U12 and U14. So it's not as competitive, but it's fun. What I like to do in the spring is work with some of the elite programs for some of the kids that are more serious lacrosse players, where they're gonna continue playing in high school and potentially if they're good, they're gonna play college, D3, whatever it may be. We'll get some of the coaches from those programs to help run some of the practices and things like that. Strategically, I continue to partner with you, the Park District. Working with Jay, this is great. He's been helping us a lot with getting field space, and we practice exclusively at Deer Path. I think I'm going to continue to do that, and try to partner with the board, the Park District, to maybe do some email marketing and try to get some of the younger kids out. Because once these kids go up, in age, we're going to be pretty much, out of teams. So I want to get the young kids to start going up and starting that over. Pretty much it. We do a lot. We do some fundraising. Portillo's, we've done one this year that helped a lot with some of the fees and the cost. So, any questions on lacrosse? Okay, thanks.
So boys basketball. I'm doing girls and boys. Yes, I'm crazy. So I haven't had a season with them yet. I coached for them last year, so this is my first time as their director. I'm basically modeling what the girls do for the boys. So I'm bringing in, the girls have been successful for 17 years in what they've done, so what they've done is great, and so I'm trying to model the same thing for the boys. Last year I think we had about 74 players. We were missing a 7th grade team, and so this year I'm trying to pull back those players to an 8th grade team, and I think we will have one. So we are working hard to ensure that it's successful for all the players. I'm looking at new uniforms for them as well, so that we're all wearing the same thing, and we're unified. I'm having a parent meeting on Monday here about the basketball program, which I'm sure I'll have many questions about. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I can report on now. I'll have more next year for you.
Any questions for the sports club? Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys. Thank you.
And on behalf of the board, to all of you, thank you very much for all you do for the community, the kids of the community. It's people have no idea, and I'm telling you firsthand, people have absolutely no idea how much time, effort, energy you put into this. They look at you on the field and going home. Trust me, that's a fraction of what these people do to help your kids enjoy a sport. So support them, praise them, because without these people, your kids aren't doing it. And so thank you all very much for what you do. Jeff?
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of piggyback on what Vince was saying. If there's anything we can help you guys do from a communications and marketing standpoint, we have a pretty talented group of people here at our district that can help you with that. And we've got, I think, a good relationship with most of you, and just, when you need help with trying to advance something for whatever reason, we're an extension of you guys. So we want to make that really clear to everybody that we're here to help in any way we can. And just to echo what President Duerhofer said, thank you all for everything you've done for our district and our community. And Stacy, you should know that Commissioner Kessler was one of the top 50 girl basketball players in the history of Niles West High School, and she does a good training clinic on how to sharpen your elbows. So, yeah.
Come join the squad.
Yeah. Hall of Famer, Niles West Hall of Famer in the girls basketball program. Yeah.
I think you got a coach.
Call me anytime.
All right.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the Canute and Associates presentation. Dave, if you could please come up.
I'm not staying for you.
Can't imagine.
It's way more exciting.
Make
Come
our
on.
annual-
The audit. We're getting out of here. It's an audit.
Our annual audit presentation. Thank you all.
Okay. Great, well, thanks for your time, appreciate it. Unlike, the excitement of sports, audits are intended to be a little more boring and a little bit more calming, hopefully. That's the type of audit you'd like to have, right? So just quickly, as far as our process goes, it's kind of a three-step process. Our first thing we do is we come in to take a look at your systems to see that they're designed the proper way so the transactions can be processed, captured into the accounting records, and taken care of the right way. Because, of course, without a good system, the output isn't going to work well. Second step we take then is to actually test transactions going through that system so that not only is it designed properly, that it's actually operating effectively also. And then the third step we take is to go through and do detailed tests of bank account transactions, ledgers, the numbers that go into the report. And what I'll say is that the design and the effectiveness of the internal controls of your financial system were in great order. The staff did a great job. It's being done the way it should be. So that was good for us. So then we moved on to the account balances and also found excellent work. So as a result of that, and I'll just run you through maybe some highlights in the report, we're able to issue our opinion, which you will find on page, usually it's page 1, but I just want to make sure, on page 1. And what that opinion says is that it is an unqualified opinion without any reservation or qualification. The financial statements, accounting systems, and accounting records are accurately stated and properly reported, and that you followed all of the proper accounting requirements. You'll see on pages 3 and 4 and 5 rather. It's the management discussion and analysis, so it's a good quick read to get an idea of what happened with the finances for the year, maybe similar to the presentations you just had from the athletic people. And it continues on for some pages after. There's graphs. It's really well done. And like I said, for maybe constituents in the district, it's a good way to quickly get a snapshot of the finances. On page 13, we have our statement of net position. So there's two financial statements. One talks about kind of the entity-wide financial resources. That's what this is here. Has big numbers because it includes all of your facilities, land, equipment, everything you have here. Not really how you look at your budget and your cash flows, but it is a required financial presentation. And you'll see at the bottom, you come down to a healthy net position of $25 million. Again, primarily that is facilities, real estate, that type of thing. On page 17, we take a look at the financial activity during the year. This is more in line with how you pass your budget and how cash flows work. Kind of more regular, governmental accounting. It is the governmental fund statement of revenues and expenditures. And what you'll see is that during the course of the year, we kind of go down to the, it's about the 5th or 6th line from the bottom. It's the excess of revenues over expenditures during the year. The overall result is basically a break even, a $7,000 reduction in expenses greater than revenue. So really, you're intending to take in resources and use them, and you did. One measure we look at just to make sure that there's good financial health is how much fund balance you have in your general corporate fund and your rec fund, because those are your big operating funds, right? We try to measure that as far as how many months you have in reserve. And in the corporate fund, we have 6 months in reserve, which is right on target. You have enough to continue to pay bills for 6 months, and then tax monies will come in the regular cycle, and you'll kind of keep going that way. So it's an appropriate reserve, right? Not too low, not too high. On the rec fund, it's about 7 months, and if I put the Lakeview Fitness Center fund with the rec fund, it's still 4 months because there's some negative there, but those two together still have an appropriate amount of fund balance, which is for us typically 3 to 6 months, enough to kind of keep you going so that when new money comes in, we can go from there. So everything is, like I said, right in line with what we would like to see. Starting on page 19 and going forward is all the accounting definitions and information. It's good late night reading if you're a little tired, but there is some expanded pension disclosures, so I will touch on those. And they start on page, sorry, I'm almost there. I wrote down the wrong number. Sorry, they start on page 38. So you'll see numerous pages of descriptions about how the pension works, the IMRF that is, and numbers and a lot of actuarial calculations. It gets pretty complicated, to be honest. But the important thing to note, a couple things. One is on page 43, it talks about what their required contribution is and what you've made. You've made the required contribution year after year after year, so we're properly funding the pension. You know, sometimes there's concerns that what if our pension's underfunded and we get into the future and we're gonna have to come up with all kinds of money to catch up? That's not the case. So your pension is healthy. And on page 45, and this will eventually be 10 years history as it builds, because it was a standard a couple of years ago. It shows the trend of where we're headed. The pension liability, and this is a long-term, making contributions for many years liability, was $929,000 in 14, and now it's down to $556,000, primarily because the market's been up and investments are worth more. But again, if you keep funding on a regular basis, we're managing our pension obligations just like we're supposed to. On pages 46 and 47, we compare to our budgets for corporate and rec funds. And on an overall basis, both of those are in a surplus, 198,000 surplus for the corporate fund and 280,000 for the rec fund, which are, the corporate was a little bit behind budget, which is not a concern of mine because it's still a surplus. You have proper fund balances. We've added something to it, just not as much as we were planning. And on the rec side, we added a little bit more than we were planning. So if you put it together, again, we're following a budgeted plan that's working well and keeping us in a healthy financial condition. On page 55, we show our debt service fund. I always just mention that only because this is where you're paying your obligations from. For the year, we have a $2,700 surplus. This fund is designed to break even. We issue a tax levy to pay known debt service costs, and we did. So, again, right where we want to be. Since you guys go for the GFOA award, which you've regularly got, and we fully expect to get again for financial reporting, there's a lot of statistical schedules that start on page 63, and it shows histories of many years of figures. Without going through many of those tables, I will point out generally that, maybe go to page 69, your history of regularly stashing away some reserve a little bit more each year to build for the future is highlighted here. It's where you want to be. Basically, from 2009, we were 2.8 million in overall fund balance, and now we're at 4.3. You know, as the district has grown and over, this is over, you know, a 10-year period of time, we've stuck away a little bit each year. So we're in great, healthy financial condition. I've also given you a document that is our management letter. It's a couple-page letter here. It has a lot of accounting language, which tends to ramble on and go forth. But basically, if we had concerns with accounting processes, transactions, your financial health, they would be highlighted in this management letter. What it basically says is that we had a good audit, we got what we needed, we didn't have any disagreements, and as a result, like I said, our report's here. So, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I just would like to say I did get an advanced copy of this. I did review
Yes.
it, and I do have no issues on the report.
Yeah, very well done. Thank you. And
Which I
Martha, thank
appreciate
you.
because the board should know. Thank you.
And Martha, thank you for all the work you do. Appreciate it.
I tell Lori, thank you.
She did do the hard work.
Any other questions?
She did the heavy lifting. You just got to present.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, engagement renewal. Could I have a motion to approve the engagement of Canuti Associates to provide the services of Vernon Hills Park District for the years ending May 31, 2019, May 31, 2020, and May 31, 2021?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Blue?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
President Dorhofer?
Yes, next item on the agenda is the 2019-2023 Master Plan. I'd like to announce the Vernon Hills Park District Master Plan is a planning document that focuses on parks and facilities. The district is in the initial stages of updating this plan for 2019 through 2023. Any member of the public that would like to comment or discuss this plan are welcome to contact our Executive Director, Jeff Fougereau. The current master plan is posted on our district website. So if you have any questions, call Jeff. Next item on the agenda is the Train Solar Proposal Recommendation. Aaron, if you could please come up to the podium.
Thanks for waiting.
Yeah. It was
all good news.
Jeff, you want to?
Sure. So if you recall, last month, we brought in a few different vendors to, present to the board on this project that we're proposing at the park maintenance facility of doing a solar roof, so putting some solar roof panels on. Through that, and through conversation with several of the board members after the meeting, we kind of fine-tuned what we were looking for. But the one thing that Aaron, he had just come on, like we had literally met with him 2 days before the board meeting, so we didn't really have a lot of time to give him to prepare the financial sustainability efforts of this project, and that was one of the concerns that the board had at the last board meeting. So since that time, James and Aaron and I have met. You're seeing this here in terms of the financial operation, but what we did is then we dissected all the different vendors, and this was the one that we felt, in our opinion, kind of stood out heads and tails above the others. And so in so doing, what I'd like to do is just, have Aaron walk through this tonight, and then obviously if any of the board members have other questions before we look to potentially advance this project, now would be a good time. So,
Aaron, please.
Sure. So I think, are we just going over the financial aspect of this?
Please.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I think let's cut to the chase,
Yeah,
Aaron.
exactly.
Yeah, on the issue, yeah.
Exactly.
These are all pretty pictures and everything. but-
Yeah, okay, so here, this is the financial page, which is the business case. So since the time of the last board meeting, we've put together a rooftop design for the maintenance building. It's a 114 kW system. We're presenting this as a power purchase agreement right now because in order for you to be able to do an apples to apples comparison, because that was what was on the table. But like we said last time, you don't need to make the decision regarding the contract mechanism yet. We're just presenting it as a PPA so that you can compete the numbers, basically. So here's the proposal. It would be a 20-year power purchase agreement. The initial rate would be 4.2 cents per kWh. And right now you're paying, for the component that would be offset, you're paying about 5.9 cents right now. So we reduce the rate from day one, produce an immediate savings, and then we would give you visibility into the energy rate you'll pay from the system over that entire 20-year period. And in this proposal, we've got a 1% annual escalation factored in. And that's negotiable. We can increase the initial rate and fix it, right? But it's just this, for the purposes of this discussion, this is the proposed financial package. So the reason why we're able to offer this reduced rate is because we would be capturing these incentives that are, they're not new, but they're increased in this market with the new program. And then what's key is that the energy rate would include all program-related fees, right? So both the initial development costs, the cost to actually do the work, right, buy the panels, and the cost to do operations and maintenance over the entire duration of the term. And if you look at it over the 20-year contract term, the net savings is a little under $100,000. Any questions on that?
So, go ahead.
Commissioner Blue?
So you are installing it? We are not?
Correct.
They're your panels?
We don't manufacture them.
But
You own them.
But we own them, correct. We own the
Okay.
asset under a power purchase.
Right, and I understand that, over the life, the 20-year, it's a 20-year program, correct?
Yeah,
The one you're
as
proposing.
proposed,
As
yep.
proposed, right?
Yep.
So the question I have is, what happens at the end of 20 years?
Yeah, so there's a few different scenarios, right? And that'll be part of the terms and conditions of the power purchase agreement, if you decide to go that route. But we'll either come out and remove the system at our cost, right? And do everything we need to restore the roof to what it would be given a 20-year wear and tear. We can renew the power purchase agreement at the 20-year period and renegotiate a rate for you to buy the power from the system. Or you can buy it at the fair market value. So those are the three common scenarios.
Panels have a lifespan to them?
Yep.
I mean, they tend to fade over time, correct?
Exactly, yep.
So at the end of 20 years, there's probably not a lot of life left in a panel? Maybe half?
We factor it, so it's about a 0.5% degradation rate year over year. So it's actually not, it's not half, but it's certainly reduced. And so a part of that analysis would be what technology exists now at the 20-year mark. And
The bigger question is there might be more efficient systems out there in 20 years, which this system won't degrade, but in 20 years, there may be something that's so much better.
Right.
That this system's gonna look old and antiquated by comparison.
Right, that could be.
At which point you would probably come back and offer us a different leasing option for
Yeah, I would
new
think
technology.
That could be part of the renegotiation.
You'll still be here, right, Dave? 20 years, you'll still be board president 20 years from now. So you can deal with Aaron.
He'll be retired, with these deals, he's gonna be retired by then.
And there's a good, important point there. So throughout the 20-year term and including that final, at the conclusion, we can also renegotiate, if a significantly improved technology comes out, we can renegotiate the rate to get you the
Reflect the
improved.
benefit.
Yeah, exactly, and then revise the energy rate. So you're certainly not locked into the technology you deploy today, but it's pretty uncommon to rip it out and replace it within the 20-year term.
And you're ballasting these, no penetration into the roof?
Right, yep. That would be the plan. So there'll be a structural, there still needs to be a structural analysis as part of the moving forward steps.
It's not a concern.
Right, but for flat roofs, we would be ballasting.
So just a quick question, not so much for you, but for James. Presently, what do we spend on electricity per year at the maintenance facility?
It's roughly 1,200, so times 12.
14,000, and you're looking to save about $5 a year off of that? Is that what this kind of works out to?
Yeah.
Goes down from 15 to about 10.
Yep.
I think is what we were factoring. 15 grand we're spending now, down to about 10
$4,800
grand.
savings.
Yeah.
All right, so we're looking at basically
And it may be higher,
30%
as you said, when you put new panels in, it's gonna be up here in terms of maybe the cost savings, and as obviously it might be 5,500 year one, and then it goes down.
Yeah, the average cost is $4,800 savings over the life of the 20 years.
just looking at it as a percentage basis of what the savings the district would achieve by going this route.
30%.
About 30%, okay, good.
And the production, so the system this system produces about two-thirds of the annual energy consumption, at least over the past 12 months. And so one of the advantages of a PPA is you spread out those cost savings over, you get it immediately, right? But then you don't see as significant of you don't see a 2/3 load reduction, right? You see a 1/3. But there are some of those other options that can be investigated, could get you, you could pay off the initial cost over a reduced term, right? A much shorter contract term, and then keep all the savings beyond there. But that's not a decision that needs to be made today.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Kessler.
So my question is, how much energy does it produce, and will it meet all our needs and all our growing needs if all of a sudden we become all electric and trucks or whatever? will this meet all the needs, and how do you gauge that?
This system, as designed, will not. But a part of, I mean, so potentially part of the moving forward steps could be to potentially look at widening the system, if we're able to do so, right? If there's other spaces where we can install solar panels. But with this system as installed, it'd be 2/3 of your current annual usage, and then the other third would still come from ComEd.
I see, okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I wasn't here last, so I
No, yeah, I
probably
didn't-
had missed that.
I didn't say that last time, so.
Okay, so there's no way to increase the amount?
No.
Not if we stick strictly to roof mount, but
Closer to the sun.
there's also ground mount options as well. So what we want to do potentially is just look at where are there available options for ground. If you want a bigger impact with the project, then we look at where else is there available real estate. But if we're just confined to the roof, then this is as good as it's going to get right now.
Why would we only confine it to the roof? Had we looked into other options of adding other panels in other locations?
Yeah,
Or is
that's
that-
one of the things that we've addressed with Aaron. I think for now, we wanted to just do, I would just say like a test pilot with the maintenance roof. But Aaron's firm has also looked at doing a total agency assessment. So, maybe at Lakeview, here at Sullivan, any of the other facilities. But for now, we wanted to kind of just get this in place. I mean, how many park districts are you doing this with right now, Aaron?
Just
Us and
a couple, to be honest. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty new.
Yeah.
From his end, getting into this particular industry with municipal, efforts. So it's something definitely we wanna certainly it would be to us, it'd be to our advantage to look at other properties.
I mean, it seems very beneficial, and there's no harm to our roof, our building at all, anything like that? Is there any risk to?
That's so it's the long-term commitment of the real estate is the part, right? And so if you're talking about roofs, then typically nobody will argue with that unless you're in like a city center or something where that's the only place where you can put a garden, right? But we talk about some ground mount scenarios, then it gets a little bit more potentially charged, right? Yeah, and there's aesthetic issues, and there's it'd be something I would think we'd want to look at potentially during the detailed development of the program. Does it make sense to put panels in other locations? But we haven't done that analysis yet.
So Aaron, what happens with an install and 6-7 years down the road, we got a roof leak? And it's something from your installation that we find maybe that was.
If it's from our installation, then that would be covered under the
agreement.
I believe definitely under the agreement, and I believe it would also be part of our insurance. So we would insure the system.
Okay.
If you have a roof leak and has nothing to do with our system, then we're not taking ownership over your roof. We're
Just so you know, we have no roof leaks right now.
Yeah.
The
That's
roof
good.
is clean.
And that'll be.
Feed off it.
I mean, we'll do a detailed. I mean, we need to feel very confident in this system, and so we're going to do a very detailed analysis to make sure that we can back up this long-term commitment.
So, Cindy, to answer your question a little more, we have looked at other roofs. There's too many slopes and there's too many barriers. The village actually wanted a lot of fencing around the rooftop units. So the new gym, we can't really fit a lot because of that huge corral that's in the middle. The old gym, I wouldn't recommend doing anything there. And then at Lakeview, there is a nice piece of real estate over the.
Swimming pool, right?
I wouldn't touch a swimming pool either because that's.
Yeah.
Over the exercise room.
Yeah.
And it's completely flat. There's absolutely no obstructions, and it's south facing. So it's after the test pilot, we are
If we could get
looking.
Trained Ingersoll to do our roof repairs at Lakeview and allow them to put
you go.
units up there.
Any other questions for Aaron?
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Eric.
General board discussion.
So Dave, we'd like to, I'm sorry, okay.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I thought you were jumping to another.
Nope. General board discussion on this concept. Is this something we are supportive of and want to look forward at?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I have a
If we can
Okay.
save a third costs each year, that's great.
And of the vendors we have talked to, is there a again, general consensus? Anyone in particular you're interested in going with?
It seems like I would go with the train.
I'd like staff's recommendation.
You have it. Sir, your feeling?
I'm, especially of all the presentations, these were the only ones that guarantee the operation and maintenance for the full 20 years. So to me, that's a,
Well, there was one other that did that, in fairness. But they've only
GRNE
been in business
did.
for 6 years.
oh, they were the,
Yeah.
they were the young
So
guys.
he
Are
didn't-
they going to be around in 20 years? I'm guessing that Ingersoll Rand train, I'm guessing they're gonna be around. So with that in mind, could I have a motion to advance the rooftop solar panel project with Train Ingersoll Rand?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Maline,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes?
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler,
Yes.
President Dorhofer.
Yes, Aaron, thank you. Is that a smile? Is that as good as we just did something really cool here. Is that as good as it gets?
Yeah, well, no, a year down the road, we're doing ribbon
Yeah, I thought it was all part of this.
Say it again, Aaron, I'm sorry.
ribbon cutting ceremonies are a little bit.
There we go. On the road. All right, next item on the agenda is personnel manual revisions. Could I have a motion to approve the following revisions to the full-time personnel manual, section 4.05, employment selection procedure, section 4.07, employment conditions, and section 4.08, guidelines for employee conduct.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Kessler,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Maline,
Yes.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
President Dorhofer.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the WW Granger invoice. Can I have a motion to approve the Granger invoice in the amount of $1,061.59?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Baloo,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Maline,
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler,
Yes.
President Dorhofer.
Abstain. Next item on the agenda is reports and communication. Since we are drifting into the evening, can we just speed this up? Jeff, do you have anything, Executive Director, anything major we need to see that wasn't in our preset? What do you want
Yes,
to call
just
out?
for the public notice, we have a consolidated election for one park board member seat, and that is for the April 2nd, 2019 election. So if any interested individuals or candidates are looking to pursue that endeavor, they can go to the Lake County Clerk's site and download a packet of information, or they can contact my office anytime, and I'd be happy to guide them through the procedures in that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Finance and HR, sir, any questions for Jeff? Finance and HR Superintendent Marla Seco?
I'm not going to mention anything in my report, but I will mention we have a position opening for a facility manager, as the gentleman to my left is retiring. So if anyone is interested, it is on our website, or you can see it on the IPRA website, and we welcome you to apply. And good luck.
Any questions for Marla? Recreation Superintendent Tom Ritter. Tom?
I have to do a little promotion for events, but I'll keep it quick.
Shocking.
One that was not on my report, next Friday, the 28th, from 6:30 to 9 is our second annual family trivia night. Went very well last year. We had about 50 people here, and we do have enough enrolled for it to happen again, but there are still openings. So if anyone wants to gather up and show us how smart they are with useful and useless trivia, it's a fun evening at the Sullivan Center. You can register now. We will be providing pizza and snacks along with the trivia. October has two events I want to just remind our residents of. Saturday, the 13th of October from 11 to 1 is our annual Trucks, Trunks, and Treats. Dress up your children, and we're encouraging you to dress up your pets as well. Come out to the parking lot over by the Aquatic Center. We'll have a variety of vehicles there for kids to climb on, to see, and to trick or treat at. This year, we intended to do this last year, but it was poor weather. We'll be having a food truck this year. They'll be doing varieties of grilled cheese, so hopefully all the kids can have something to eat. It's $3. The admission is only for the child. Everyone else is comped. And our annual Fall Fest, October 26th, Friday night, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Sullivan Center. Basically, for those that are not familiar, it's our annual indoor trick-or-treating. Safe environment, usually about 20 organizations or businesses in town. Jessica Mitchell gets a lot of credit for getting them all lined up and organized, and Jack for running the event. We complement that trick-or-treating with a bunch of activities. We are adding a blacklight dance party and a glow inflatables area to replace the traditional carnival games that we used to do. So we're looking forward to that. $2 a person. Children under 2 are free. And don't forget about basketball. Youth basketball is more of a winter sport. I know as a coach and parent, we're wrapped up in the fall sports, but registration deadline for basketball is October 21st. You can register after that date, but the fee goes up. We need to prepare for the season. So please plan to enroll by October 21st. Practices start after the Thanksgiving holiday, and games start in January. Usually have somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 players. And that's my report, if there's any questions.
Any questions for Tom? Thank you very much. Park Superintendent James Kim. James?
I've got 2 things that were on my report. The Park District Park staff will be having hay rides at the Oktoberfest this Saturday at the Metro Station. So we're going from 4 till probably 8:30, 9. Second is our Arbor Walk, Series 2, is going to be October 20th, 8 a.m. at Century Park, and then 10 a.m. at Sullivan Woods to go through the Oak Savannah. And that concludes my report.
Where do you meet at Century Park?
Century Park North at 1401 Indianwood Drive.
Okay, and Sullivan Woods?
And Sullivan Woods, he hasn't decided on which end to start at, so that will be posted.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for James? Marketing Communication Manager Cheryl Buman. Cheryl?
Just really quick, our update of our website is complete. We redesigned it. I had training today, so I anticipate it going live next week. So I will send an email out to board and staff so you can take a look when it does go live. But I think you'll really like it. And I just wanted to thank the over 200 Vernon Hills residents who came out to our Glow Walk last Friday night. It was really nice. It was really neat to see everybody coming back into the park after walking about 2 miles. And all you saw was glow necklaces and dog collars and strollers and bicycles. It was just really neat, and I think everybody enjoyed it. So thanks to all the residents.
Very cool. Any questions for Cheryl? Thank you much. And for the very last time, Lakeview Facility Manager Mark Purcell. Mark?
And I'll keep it really short. Lakeview is hosting a health and safety fair on October 3rd from 9 to noon. Obviously, our members will be there, but it's open to the public as well. We're going to be having speakers and specialized group exercise classes. We've got about a dozen vendors. There's going to be complimentary blood screenings and a variety of other health-related activities. Residents are just welcome to come in. It's free, and you'll get a lot of swag. So I suggest stop by, see the facility, and take a class and listen to some.
Membership.
That too. So that's it.
Any questions for Mark? Two items for you, Mark. The shower came in damaged.
It's working as of today. They put the panel in. Apparently, it actually was working last week. The water was turned on, but the partition wasn't up, which we found out, and some of the people in the hot tub were not necessarily thrilled about the splash that was coming off one of the individuals that was showering. So I had our maintenance staff turn the shower off and the funny thing was, the person that was using the shower was the gentleman that actually recommended it in the first place. So we turned the shower off. We've turned it back on now that the partition's up, and I've gotten some very positive comments. The members I talked to today, they're just hoping that now that it's there, people will actually use it.
Are we putting any signage up there to communicate to please shower after you come out of the
We have
sauna
signage
steam
up.
room?
We've always had signage up. We're going to put up additional signage, say, please take advantage of this opportunity before you go back in to the hot tub or the pool.
Very good. And on behalf of the board, thank you very much congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for your service.
You got a great park district and a lot of great staff.
Yes,
So
we
thank
do.
you for the opportunity.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is commissioner and committee reports and communications. There are none. Board correspondence, there is none. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Blue.
Nothing this evening.
Commissioner Moline.
No, thank you.
Commissioner Robbins.
Nothing.
Commissioner Kessler.
I'm just going to add to thank all the athletic clubs that were here presenting, and the time that they've given is very much appreciated by us, the board, and the Park District. And to continue what Jeff said, if there's ever anything that they need, anything more we can do, we're here to support you too.
And Commissioner Dorhofer, nothing. With that, can I have a motion to go into closed session under Section 2C21 of the Illinois Opens Meeting Act for the purpose of discussing the semi-annual review, approval, and/or release of closed session minutes and destruction of audio tape?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Meline?
Yes.
Commissioner Blue?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins? President Dorhoeffer?
Yes, we are adjourned to closed session.